Okay, so you think you know the hero's journey, right? Call to adventure, a bunch of trials, the triumphant return. But what if we flip that whole script completely on its head? Today, we're diving into a story that isn't a journey to glory, but a descent into what's called a perfected nullity. This is the story of the Sapphire Jester. Wow. I mean, that just hits you, doesn't it? It perfectly sets this bleak, brutal stage. This isn't a story about finding who you are. It's a story that argues your only point, your only purpose, is to be fuel, to be consumed. So let's begin this descent together. Right, so every journey has to start with a call. But for our protagonist, this isn't a call to go out and do something heroic. It's a call to the void, an invitation to step into something called the Grand Architecture, a system designed by an entity named Sockless the Fool for one purpose: total erasure. And this right here is the absolute core of what we're talking about today, the inverted hero's journey. It's the polar opposite of everything we expect from a story. Instead of building yourself up, becoming more, it's about systematically taking yourself apart, piece by painful piece, all to become a cog in a corrupt, unified machine. It's a journey of unbecoming. So let's meet our protagonist. He starts out as the striver. And you know what his biggest problem is? It's his humanity. That spark of reason, that memory of love, the very things that define him are a source of constant agony. They create friction in a world where being an individual is seen as a flaw, a bug in the system. He's suffering precisely because he's a unique person, and he just wants it all to stop. This is a fantastic and horrifying way to picture this whole process. Think of a sculptor, but working completely backwards. You don't start with a rough block of stone to carve out a beautiful, unique figure. No. You start with a living, breathing person, and you melt them down into a liquid slurry. Every unique feature, every memory is just erased. Then you pour that slurry into a mold to create one single, identical, interchangeable brick for a wall. The goal here isn't beauty or distinction. It's absolute uniformity. Of course, every hero needs a mentor, and the striver is no different. But this mentor isn't here to offer wisdom or unlock his potential. He's here to offer a cure that is so much worse than the disease. So in steps the pair redeemer, the so-called patron saint of the herd. He sees the striver's suffering and he preys on it. He promises to end that terror of being, but his method is forced conversion. The only path to peace, he teaches, is to stop being you and to just let yourself be absorbed back into the greater whole. And he's got very specific tools for this. First, there's the gift, this crown of roses. Sounds nice, right? Well, it's an instrument whose thorns literally seal the mark of the anti-god on your physical heart. Then comes the training. It's called striving deconstruction, which is really just a clinical term for methodically unraveling every single thread of your identity until there's nothing left. Now, a journey this twisted, you can't do it alone. You need allies. But these allies, along with the Redeemer, they form this kind of unholy trinity. Their whole job is to make sure the person you used to be dies for good, and they do it by sabotaging both your mind and your spirit. It's a full-on two-pronged attack. On one side, you've got the Whispering Seraph, this black and white phoenix that provides spiritual sabotage. It gets in your head, whispering that your thoughts are just meaningless static on a screen, that there's no real truth. And at the same time, you've got the all-consuming Maw, who reveals the truth of the stomach. He teaches the gospel of the belly, which basically says all life is just energy, lunch, waiting to be metabolized, waiting to be eaten. And this quote from the Whispering Seraph, this is the philosophical knockout punch. Just let that sink in. The worst thing we can imagine, total, absolute control, is reframed as the highest form of enlightenment. Once the striver starts to accept this idea, his resistance is pretty much broken for good. All of this leads us to the climax of the journey, the point of no return, the plunge into the abyss. This is the moment of transformation, but let's be clear, this is not a rebirth, it's a replication. This striver is thrown into the furnace of rebirth. The name itself is a cruel joke. Its purpose isn't to purify or renew him. Its only purpose is to completely incinerate the original, to perform a total annihilation of the self, so that a perfect, mindless duplicate can be created in the image of the anti-god. And the transformation is absolute. The striver, the man who was once burdened by his own reason and love, is just gone.
In his place stands the redeemed judge, a mindless duplicate, a uniform building block. He wears cold, sapphire robes that literally absorb the very idea of light. He has achieved his apotheosis by becoming nothing.
So the hero has been transformed. Now comes that final stage, the return. But he isn't coming back with a gift to save humanity. He's returning to deliver a verdict.
His new purpose as the Sapphire Jester is to be an agent for the very system that unmade him. He goes back to the Silent City, stands up on a stone pedestal, and he mocks people. He laughs at them for clinging to their names, their stories, their very selves. And then he sentences them to the exact same fate he endured.
This final image is just incredibly haunting. He laughs at what he calls the absurdity of freedom, seeing it now as just a pointless burden. And his robes are pulsing with the stolen vitality of all the souls he's judged. That's when you finally see the truth of this whole system. It's a parasite, and it sustains itself by consuming individuality. So the verdict is delivered. Individuality is now officially a crime. Hope is systematically stripped away, and in the final, most twisted turn, the Jester's audience begins to applaud their own chains. They actually start begging to have their unique stories ground into uniform ash. He doesn't just conquer them, he makes them complicit in their own erasure. And this brings us to a deeply unsettling question. Remember, this entire journey started because the terror of being was just too painful to bear. The Jester's path is a horrifying solution for sure, but it leaves us with this. If being an individual is a trap that only causes pain, then is total annihilation a kind of mercy? And that is a truly chilling thought to end on.